I was at home, playing video games like always. Then I heard a ding from my doorbell. I quickly paused the video game and ran to my front door. I opened it and the mailman was outside. He said, "I think this is for you," and gave me an envelope. He then proceeded to walk away. I opened the envelope and found a folded paper. I unfolded the paper and quickly recognized the handwriting. It was my best friend, Jonathan. I read the letter slowly. The letter goes as follows. "Hello Nick. I sent you this letter to invite you to my birthday party. I have been dealing with a lot of stress lately, and since you are my very closest friend, having you at my apartment for my birthday is all I could ask for. The party is tomorrow at 3 p.m. The house will be decorated and many of my other friends will also be there. I hope to see you at the party. Jonathan Miller, 12:43 p.m. April 10, 2021. I pulled out my phone and texted him, "Sure, I'll be there tomorrow," and he quickly replied, "Thank you." After that, I went to my bedroom and searched my closet for some nice clothes to wear. Then I finished the video game, and went to bed. Next morning, I was woken up by my alarm. I reached for the alarm clock and turned it off. I put on my clothes and grabbed my car keys, then I drove to John's apartment. I went to his door and knocked, and he opened the door and smiled, then said, "You're here. Isn't it very early, though?" I said, "Yeah, it's early, but I want to help you decorate before the party." He nodded, then we started decorating the house. Fast forward to 2:56 p.m. We heard a knock on the door. It was our friends. They were also here for the party. John greeted them and sat them down at the dinner table. He then went to the fridge and pulled out a cake top. But it was missing the cake. I asked John where the cake was, but he ignored me and placed the cake top down on the table. His friends then started walking towards me. I was starting to get frightened, but thought they were just playing a prank on me, as they were pranksters. But then Michael punched me in the stomach. Then the rest followed. At this point I was terrified. What was going on? Were they mad at me? What was gonna happen now? Was this my last day? Then they picked me up from the floor and put me on the kitchen table. Then they taped my head to the table. I tried to speak, but the tape was on my mouth. Then John said, "Let's put the frosting on the cake now," and pulled out a butter knife. And then grabbed a jar of vanilla extract and poured it all over my body. Then they all started spreading it around with butter knives. This couldn't be a prank, I thought. What happened to them? What happened to the nice friend group that always chilled every Friday and watched Netflix? Followed. When they were done, Michael said, "I'll do a taste test." He grabbed my arm and bit my hand. It was absolutely painful. I started to scream and then Michael bit off my finger. Then John pulled out a pistol and said, "Shut up," now with a deeper voice. Something was telling me that if I didn't shut up, I was gonna die. So I stopped screaming. I looked at my hand and saw a pool of blood forming around my hand. Noah said, "Perfect." Then they started to splash the blood around my body, spreading it around with the butter knives again. I wanted to run away, but I couldn't move. It was like I was super glued to the table. Noah took a bite of my hand again. At this point, I already had enough pain, so I couldn't feel much of it anymore. Noah then said, "It's good. We should put him on the oven now." The rest nodded. My adrenaline kicked in. Now I knew I had to escape. I couldn't be cooked to death. "How will we fit him in, though?" said Michael. John said we could cut him in pieces, and the group went to the hallway where bedrooms were. Now I pulled my other arm to the tape and started to remove it slowly, trying to be quiet. I succeeded. Then I slowly got up from the table. And I started hearing footsteps. "I can't find the machete," said John again. I made my way to the front door before I heard John say, "I found it. Let's go slice him up." I managed to get the front door open, then I started hearing them come back. I closed the front door and ran out of the building. I pulled my keys out of my pocket and I unlocked my car, then drove away into the woods on one hand. I knew I couldn't go home because all of them know my address. They could easily know where I went. I pulled my phone out and noticed the battery was at 7%. I didn't have much time, so I called 911. "911, what's your emergency? My friends tried to bake me as a cake and bit off my finger. Help." "Where are you, sir?" "I'm at Botany Woods. Please, quick, I'm bleeding. We're sending an ambulance over, please stay on the line. They won't take long to get to you." I glanced at my battery percentage again, and saw 3%. "I don't think I can. My battery is runny." Then my battery ran out. Now what? I had lost contact with the operator. Now I could only hope that my friends didn't find me. My car was outside the woods. It could easily be seen if you looked around enough. I could only hope they didn't see my car driving away. I got my shirt off, and threw it. Now I only had a t-shirt on. I swiped the weird mixture of blood and vanilla extract away from my pants, and I knew it wouldn't be very effective, but it would work. It had an absolutely nauseating smell. I threw up on the grass. Then I started to hear sirens in the distance. They slowly got louder, and louder. Until they stopped. And I saw an ambulance when I looked behind me. But then I saw one of my friends come out of the ambulance. I got up and started running as fast as I could. I ran to the street, and saw another ambulance. I waved my arms to it and it stopped, most likely after seeing me losing a bunch of blood in the place where a finger was supposed to be. Another of my friends came out of it. I didn't trust anything now. Then I saw an ambulance which was being followed by 2 police cruisers. I waved my arms again. I saw 2 paramedics come out of the ambulance with a bed, and they told me to get in it. So I did. They pulled me into the ambulance and I glanced over the window. What I saw horrified me. I saw my friends stabbing police officers with knives. Bullets didn't seem to affect them. They just kept stabbing every police officer around them. Until all of them were dead. At the hospital, I went through recovery and yesterday I was finally let off. I am staying at a hotel at Orlando, and I hope whatever was pretending to be my friends isn't out there, looking for me, to bake me into cake. I hope my friends aren't pretending to be other people's friends, baking them into cake. I hope my family is okay. My great-grandfather murdered 2 people, hurt 11. Apparently, the murder scene was a mess. They couldn't figure out what body part used to be what. Somehow the insides were now scattered about the room, yet the skin was still almost perfectly intact, like the skin of sausage before it had been filled. My grandfather is 81 years old. He's German. He was a Nazi but not through choice. He had resisted the regime but had been captured whilst attempting to cross the border. Hitler had always been influenced by occultism and mysticism, but everyone, apart from my family, had believed it to be the ridiculous obsession of a madman. The Nazis discovered a huge range of artifacts in a small hut owned by an old woman named Bogdana. Once they uncovered the objects hidden in her walls, they shot her in the back of the head. She was making them tea. A tiny wooden lotus flower was the Nazis' main obsession. Once inserted into a person's body, the flower climbed through the body, slipping through muscle fibers, digging through bones, and attaching itself to the central nervous system, acting initially as a symbiote but quickly taking over the mind and body. I do not know the science, but I vaguely know that through some sort of photosynthesis, the lotus transfers energy from the sun into the host and uses the energy to force cells to constantly die and regenerate at an incredible speed. The side effects include a gradual loss of control, gradual loss of memory and rapid bone growth. Whilst the cells do regenerate quickly, the bones grow quicker, so tend to pierce through any muscle and skin slightly. Dressed in a soldier's uniform, a gas mask surgically attached to his face, he was a secret weapon in the war. However, he was kept locked up after he turned on the Nazis and disposed of a German unit in France. After the war, his wife tried to readjust him to normal life. He killed her. His son kept him locked up. If he did not kill at least once a week, he would break out somehow and kill anyway. We fed him. That was most likely the only reason he did not kill us and why he always returned to us the next day. We eventually started to willingly let him out once a week. We moved to a rural town in the middle of Italy where the population was lower in an attempt to limit how many people he managed to attack. From the news reports, I think he would go out and attack anyone he saw. He was not fast, so most managed to get away. Some were not that quick. 2 nights ago I let him out. Of course, he killed. But he didn't come home. I unlocked the basement doors this morning and he wasn't there. The word "more" was written in what looked like chalk on the wall. I knew it was made by grating his bones against the stone though. I panicked. I threw up. I passed out. I woke up to a broken nose and a small pool of blood. Waves of pain flooded through my face. I got up and steadied myself down. I walked up the basement stairs as quickly as I could. My vision was fuzzy and I knew I was at least concussed, but finding my great-grandfather was more important. I slipped on my trainers and went for the front door. The door handle would not open. I slammed my body against it, yet it refused to move. I tried the back door. Same problem. The next best solution was going to be leaving through a window. They were completely blocked out. What looked like white vines held them closed whilst obscuring a lot of my vision out of the windows. I tried going upstairs. The same issue. I resorted to the attic, a small circular window facing out to the front of the house. I would not be able to leave through it, but at least I would be able to see. I climbed the ladder up into the attic. I had to climb through and jump over the decades of belongings left up there by now deceased family. I sat on my knees looking out of the circular window. People lay in the streets. Pools of red were lightly illuminated by the occasional streetlight. I could make out some figures sat hunched over the bodies. Some figures stood swaying gently in the streets. I watched some people simply fall out of windows. I didn't know what was happening, but from the screams and cries of the town that penetrated through the window, I knew it had to do with my missing great-grandfather. I pulled out my phone and called the police. I had to admit what my family hid. "This is 112, what is your emergency?" A female voice asked gently. "Yes, hello, there are people outside dead. I know who did it, it's my grandfather. He has murdered them. We need help." My thoughts flooded out of my mouth. I am aware I sounded mad. "Oh yes, we know," replied the operator. "Well, are you sending someone? They need to come now." "Oh no, I don't think we will be doing that." I sat shaking. What the FK was she doing? "I don't think you heard me clearly. There are people being ripped apart out there." "I heard you the first time, Michael. We know about your grandfather and thank you for looking after him. We have been trying to find him for so long now. Your family kept him quiet, well hidden." I threw up a little in my mouth. I have no idea what was going on. She continued, "I'm sure this is shocking, Michael. Sat in your cramped little loft, watching flesh and blood being thrown about your street like confetti. Yes, we know where you are, we know what you are watching. We know everything about you and your great-grandfather. Why are you doing this? What do you get out of it?" I could feel my lips trembling. I had never felt a fear like this. Not even when watching my great-grandfather return with blood covering his damaged gas mask. I heard something smash on the floor below me, followed by a series of sharp and angry whispers. I gasped. "Ah, I see, they've made their presence known. I requested that they kill you silently. Didn't want you trying anything silly, Michael. I will make sure they are subjected to the Lotus once they return." I dropped the phone and ran to the hatch on the floor that led back down the ladder. Two men wearing gas masks stood at the bottom of the ladder looking straight up at me. Glass stuck out of the neck of one of them, but no blood appeared to mark his clothes. I slammed the hatch shut. Grabbing anything I could, I piled box on top of box, blocking the attic hatch. The boxes bounced slightly as the men tried to push the hatch open. I've hung up on the woman. I tried going onto Facebook or Twitter, but both are saying that I am permanently banned. I have tried calling other phone numbers, but every time, I get an automated voice saying no, Michael. No escaping this time. The only site I do have access to is this one. Please, you have to help me. I heard one of the men scream, "No, not us," a few minutes ago. It was quickly followed by the sound of meat tearing and the thud of what I presumed was two bodies hitting the floor. The banging on the door hatch stopped. I can now hear scraping and tapping. It's getting quicker. Every now and then it stops and I hear labored breathing on the other side of the hatch. I think my great-grandfather has brought some friends home.